ByteDance apps, Cosmic Orange, Tim Sweeney's credibility, and predictive markets. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by MacPaw, the makers of CleanMyMac, your ultimate solution for Mac control and care. Try CleanMyMac for 7 days free, then use the code MacVoices20 for 20% off at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. That's CLNMY.com/MacVoices. Apple US reportedly blocking downloads of ByteDance-owned apps. And I didn't see anything that disputed this today. That means TikTok, that means Capcom, that means all those other interesting little ByteDance apps that have been of such concern. And, you know, it from this article and a couple others I read, they're obviously not going to take them off your machine, but you're not going to get any updates for them. And if you delete them off your machine, you're not getting them back. So I'm not sure if this is a PSA or a warning or an indication of something else. I was kind of surprised to see it after the alleged sale went through of TikTok, so that, you know, it's U.S. owned or partially U.S. owned or partially U.S. controlled or whatever the media was designating it. But
did that agreement cover all these other apps?
I don't know, Mark, but now TikTok, along with all the others, are gone.
Wait, isn't TikTok on another account in the store now? This is saying you can't get it from the ByteDance account, but I'm thinking you can get it from whatever the U.S. entity that Oracle owns. Or I don't think this means TikTok is removed. It means you can't download it from, in the rest of the world. Presumably, it's still available from ByteDance. So now it's like you can't get the ByteDance one. You have to get the official U.S. one.
Right. The ByteDance version wouldn't be offered in the U.S. because of the law that was enacted, saying that it either had to be sold or it was going to be banned. So I think it's just outside the U.S. is where the Apple may be doing this.
I don't know, and somebody feel free to correct me, because I just noted it going by and thought, wow, that's interesting, because I know Capcom, there are a number of video podcasters or podcasters that produce video versions that swore by Capcom because it was so easy, and I can't speak from experience because I never used it, but it was going to be quite a blow to them if it went away. So I don't know. Now you all bring up a great point I never even thought of, that that there might be a different version of it that could be gotten. So more as we find out. On the Apple TV front, Silo got some exciting news ahead of season 3's release. Apparently, they've already shot season 4, and it's going to be hopefully released without one of those painful, lengthy delays. And that season 4 will conclude the series. Now, I think there were I know I'm a Silo fan, and I know there are at least a couple other people. Brian, yeah, you were in. Marty?
Yeah, I think this is a problem that Apple has with successful series, because Rebecca Ferguson has got a whole movie career outside of working for Apple. And I think what Apple's doing is now they're looking at placing and doing 2 seasons, if it's going to go 2 seasons, all in one shoot. Because that frees up a longer period of time where their artists can go on and pursue other things instead of waiting around for a new season with Apple. So they're not locked in as much as they are, and that allows them to go do the next Mission Impossible movie or whatever else.
Okay. But I don't think just Apple has this problem, because there are a number of shows out there that have these interminably long periods in between seasons. And I mean, we're talking about 6, 8, 10 show seasons, as opposed to what used to be, 12
16,
28,
yeah.
16. So it makes a certain amount of sense. And if the the consumers want them, then why wouldn't you, maybe not go back to one of the killer production schedules that there were in the old days, but do something that makes a little more sense and keeps a little more continuity. Says the guy who nobody's beating down my door to do, movies. So, anybody else interested in Silo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Brian? You?
Yeah.
And Mark too. Good.
Yeah, and I saw even a more updated article, I guess today. The article was noting that Rebecca Ferguson was on the Today Show, I think it was. Noted, yeah. It says, and she was actually talking about a different show, but Silo was brought up, and she had mentioned that I guess it will premiere this summer. So whereas before I just had noted, it had wrapped filming, but I guess season 3 will. At least it has a summer release date.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Apple seems to be hitting it out of the park with sci-fi shows.
Yeah.
And even more. And Barry says, yep, Silo is one of my faves. Yep, we're right there with you, Barry. Touching just a little bit toward politics, but there's an industry group representing Apple that has voiced concern to the Pentagon over the Anthropic ban. And I was a little surprised that Apple would get anywhere near this discussion, even as part of an industry group or a group that could be categorized as maybe partially speaking for them. I don't know if this is a good idea or bad, and it really has nothing to do with my views or anybody else's views on the politics of the situation. But the reality is that, opposing the White House right now seems to come with a lot of potential tariff consequences. Good idea? Bad idea? Webb?
Sorry, I'm busy.
Does that mean you don't
So,
want to
Chuck,
comment?
I ain't going to touch this one.
Okay, that's fair.
No, sirree,
fair.
Bob.
Okay.
But I appreciate everybody having the right to express their opinion.
Okay.
Okay, I'll chime in. I read the article, and maybe I'm just dead tired or something. Other than Apple joining the group, I couldn't understand what their argument was and what their position was.
Okay. And I don't want to interpret their position. So folks, if you're interested, go look at the article. I know what I thought it said, but that doesn't mean it's right. Eric?
Yeah, I'd at least from the article, I don't see Apple having a prominent role making this letter go out. Yeah, they might be a member, but I don't know how involved they were. On the other hand, I think that if you get a company that makes a statement on moral grounds that they have these couple of restrictions, that the ability to have those restrictions in a company should be supported by other companies. You shouldn't be able to have a government step all over a company just because they said, hey, we don't want our product to wage war independently on its own. We want a human involved.
Yeah. Brian?
Yeah, it's just something I noticed in the article when I was reading it. It was mentioning that that Information Technology Industry Council, besides Apple, includes a couple other big technology-oriented companies, including NVIDIA and Amazon as well.
Just it seemed interesting that they would choose to do this, but it is what it is. This is just a fun one. Cosmic Orange, which of course is the iPhone. A lot of the panel has. I don't. Is the new black as competitors copy the color. There you go. Mark?
More proof that iPhones are fashion. You have a leader, and then you have all the quick knockoffs.
Yep. And also the fact that this circles the whole way back to the Neo discussion that apparently colors sell.
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah. How many oranges do we have? Excuse me, cosmic oranges do we have here on the panel? Come on, I know somebody has a cosmic orange.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I
David
thought you-
does. Yeah.
I thought you did, Dave. Yeah, I thought somebody else did too.
I have a comment on colors that I'll save till after dark.
Okay.
It's Oompa Loompa orange, by the way. It's not cosmic.
Okay. This edition of Mac Voices is supported by CleanMyMac by MacPaw. Clean here, clean there, clean everywhere. That's the idea behind CleanMyMac, because keeping your digital life organized isn't just about what's on your Mac anymore. It's about everything connected to it. Sure, CleanMyMac has long been your go-to tool for cleaning up your Mac, getting rid of junk files, removing apps completely, and making sure all of those hidden support files don't stick around taking up space. But now it goes even further. With CleanMyMac, you can clean out not just your Mac, but also the devices connected to it and your cloud storage too. That means finding and removing unnecessary files, duplicates, and clutter no matter where they're hiding, locally or online in iCloud, OneDrive, Google Drive, or Dropbox. And with features like My Activity, you can actually see what CleanMyMac has been doing for you, how much space you've reclaimed, what's been cleaned up, and how your system is performing over time. It's total visibility and total control. So whether it's your hard drive or your cloud accounts, CleanMyMac helps you stay organized, optimized, and running smoothly without the guesswork. Clean here, clean there, clean everywhere with CleanMyMac. Get tidy today. Try CleanMyMac for 7 days at cleanmy.com/MacVoices, MacVoices in all caps, and then use the code MacVoices20 in all caps for 20% off at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. That's clnmy.com/MacVoices and use the code MacVoices20 in all caps for 20% off. CleanMyMac. Take control of your Mac and everything connected to it. Thanks to CleanMyMac for supporting Mac Voices. Well, we have moved into that part of the show now where we get to have a little fun.
Wait.
Did it again. Tim Sweeney apparently has finally been muzzled, at least by Google. And he kind of sold his life away because he signed away his rights to criticize Google until 2032. Doesn't mean you can't criticize Apple because that is still going on. But what does this say about someone who orchestrated the whole App Store crisis? That they could settle with him for enough money that he would be quiet. If it was such a cause celeb kind of righteous thing. I didn't think my opinion of Tim Sweeney could go any lower. And it has now achieved that. Mark?
Okay, so there's this long story. So forgive me, I need to give some background before I get to the punchline as it applies to this, which is probably many on this panel and the audience know, this guy, Clayton Christensen, who was a Harvard Business School professor, wrote the book, The Innovator's Dilemma, The Innovator's Solution, where we talked about how companies that become dominant in their market get disrupted by other people who come out with competing technology that first is crap, but ultimately gets good enough, and people dump the established player and go in their favor. So I guess he's known for just talking about, sort of morals and, philosophical values in pursuing a business career. And he tells the story of how he was a hotshot out of Harvard Business School and was going to the Boston Consulting Group, which is, one of the big swinging dicks of consulting firms, probably at the top, maybe first or second relative to McKinsey, depending on, which each of those firms will tell you that they're the best and the other one is the second best. But anyway, he came out and he tells a story of, he's working, blah, 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 blah. And Clay, we need you to come in on Sunday, 2 p.m. We need to do a final review of this presentation that we're doing Monday afternoon. And he says, oh, no, I can't do it. I made a commitment to, people at my church and blah, 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 blah. And his boss loses his temper and goes away and comes back, comes back a little later and says, okay, okay, so I've talked to the rest of the team, that's fine. Could you come in on Saturday? And he said, oh, I forgot to tell you, on Saturday, I also made a commitment to my wife that, I won't work on weekends. So the guy gets even madder and comes back in and says, okay, Clay, we've come out. Are you working on Friday? Could we have a meeting on Friday? And he says, yes. And after that, he says, that was a turning point. That was, I was in my 20s. There was an early turning point in my career because, in 40 years since then, he died a couple of years ago due to some sort of cancer. But he said, ever since then, there's always been exigent circumstances and why it's important and why it's just a one-time event. And he said, what he took away from this is it's easier to be 100% faithful to your morals than it is to be 98% faithful to your morals. So what does that mean? I think Sweeney is 98% faithful to his morals, and he got bought off.
I would agree, Mark. I would agree. It's just the old joke about, we've established, what you are. Now that we're just negotiating price.
Yes.
So,
Winston Churchill. Yes.
Yes. This one, I'm not quite sure what to make of this because this, at least for me, came right out of left field. That Indonesia has announced a social media ban for anyone under 16. There's been so much talk about all the fighting in the U.S. There's been talk about Australia and some other places, but I have not seen anything about Indonesia until right now. Was anybody else seeing this or hearing this?
I wasn't particularly surprised. I've been to Indonesia and worked with Indonesian teachers, and the country has a strong faith-based focus, and so this kind of can fit within that framework that they would see this as a way of protecting someone, a youth, someone under the age of 16. So I wouldn't particularly not surprised by it. Of course, they're also geographically very close to Australia, so you're going to have that kind of regional playoff too of this ban. So yeah. Malaysia is also pursuing similar policies. That's again in the same regional area.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So is this just yet another bellwether that this is something that's going to come to the U.S.?
Doubtful.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't think it would have anything to do with whether it happens in Indonesia.
Well, just that it's one more, Jim. It's one more place that is saying, we're going to put some age restrictions on. Brian?
Yeah, well, we're seeing that in the U.S. I'm sorry, just to mention that we're getting states that are they're pressing for age verification on a lot of things right now. So,
and just to clarify, what this actually means is no access without identity verification.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian?
Yeah, that's kind of like where I was thinking too is, how are they determining the under 16 or if they would, is it as a, some sort of an age verification type system as we were talking about, over the last several weeks, or is it something that's, I'm assuming like when you set up an account and you put in a birth date, if somebody who's under 16 would want to use that app, all they would have to do is not be honest about their birth date and it would, allow them in. I was trying to look at the article. I didn't see anything specific on it.
Yeah, well, this goes back to so many discussions we've had about age verification and identity and being secure. And so how do you how do you age verify without giving away your identity? And
Impossible.
yeah, I mean, we've seen that, oh yeah, well, the tech companies can do it. They can just, do some facial recognition thing and decide. And it's like, yeah, that won't be defeated in 10 minutes. So,
Well, even if it wasn't, giving your face means giving up your identity.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, where do you go with this? And whether it's social media, adult sites, gambling sites, take your pick.
Betting sites, Kalshi, all sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you, Mark, because that's a segue into the next article.
Oh.
Is the insider prediction is this insider information the prediction market bets driving a campus frenzy? That they seem to be targeting campuses for this kind of betting, and I'm not a very moral guy, that is preaching, no drinking and no dancing and no gambling. But this just seems so far out of bounds, and with seeing how how easy they're making it, and the kind of things that you can bet on that are completely trivial. It just, and everybody thinks they can beat it. Everybody thinks they've got a chance.
I can't read this article. What is the story? I don't understand.
That they are starting to target campuses for aggressive betting. They, Kalshi and the predictive markets. So I don't know.
Yeah, the byline is Kalshi and Poly Market pour money into deals with social media influencers and students who try to parlay rumors into cash. Quote, we know this shouldn't be allowed, end of quote. So
well, I comment, I was unable to read the article, but on one hand, is this any different than somebody saying, hey, go out there and stir this stuff up and get all these bets going, because that's how they make their money, right? They want ever increasing volume of bets, being, or in polite terms, I guess it's a prediction market. They want to collect the wisdom of the crowd, so they want to collect it, and just drive up the amount of volume on their site, so without knowing the specifics, it's hard to tell if it's pernicious or if it's just companies trying to increase their business, at least to me.
Yeah, but Mark, I guess the way I look at it is, there's so much regulation around so many types of gambling, and the regulation seems to be easing on all of this to a disturbing level. And now we're seeing social media being targeted, using influencers and social media being targeted to younger people that don't have the experience. And again, they think they're smarter than anybody else and they can beat it, and that's just not the case. And so, I've seen several interviews, and I've listened to more with some of the predictive market folks, especially Kalshi, and they make some interesting points, but they also they don't think they should be regulated. And I'm not so sure about that.
So I agree. I agree with you that some amount of regulation is necessary. I would point out that Wall Street Journal insider information, that's that's a honeypot, Pavlov, dog reaction term to get everyone to click and read the article. So it really, I guess the issue is, okay, what constitutes insider information? And in financial markets, that's fairly well established. In sports, maybe not. In other areas, maybe not. So I guess that's an ongoing societal debate we need to have. Of, if you see your octogenarian congressman or senator going into a hospital, and you post on that. Is that insider information, or is that or not? And there's all sorts of other things that's particularly really easy to understand example of all sorts of other things that you might see publicly, just driving somewhere that may give you an insight that other people don't have. And is that is that insider information, or is that just somebody's damn observant and had the guts to go out and create a bet on it and made some money?
Well, so if you're betting on something that is that something that we as society, that sounds like fraud to me.
Why is it fraud? I mean, if you see something and and you bet on it, what is the fraud? I mean, maybe distasteful that you see somebody go to a hospital, or some other thing, but if you're out in the public venue and you observe something and you bet on it, why is that a problem?
Mark, the way I'm reading this and the way I'm thinking about it is, though, college sports are a lot less regulated than the NFL and the NBA and all those. And so how easy would it be for someone to manipulate a player playing or not playing and putting a little money down and picking up a lot more?
Well, that's my point, is we need some regulations. We don't know where the boundaries are, where the fuzzy lines are, and where we need to draw some lines.
And sooner or later, somebody's going to send me an email and say, what is this doing in a MacVoices discussion? It's because the predictive markets are driven by the technology that we didn't have before. And that's what's making them possible, and that's what is making them widespread. So in my way of thinking, that's what makes them interesting.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.